Welcome, dear listeners. Today, I'll share the remarkable story of a man whose incredible intellect forever changed the way we see the universe, Sir Isaac Newton. This is more than just a biography. It's a chance to improve your English while exploring the fascinating life of one of the greatest minds in history. So, as you listen, not only will you learn about Newton, but you'll also strengthen your language skills. Let's begin. Isaac Newton was born on December 25th, 1642, in a quiet village named Woolsthorpe in Lincolnshire, England. Imagine a world without electricity, cars, or any of the modern technology we have today. Just peaceful countryside living. Isaac's family owned a small farm, and his father, also named Isaac Newton, was a farmer. Sadly, he passed away before his son was born. That meant little Isaac came into the world never having met his father. His mother, Hannah Asko, was left alone to raise him. Life was difficult for her, juggling the farm and taking care of a newborn. Isaac was born too early, a premature baby, and so tiny that many feared he wouldn't live. But he defied the odds and slowly grew stronger. Even as a child, he was quiet, thoughtful, and very observant. When Isaac turned 3, his mother married a wealthy man named Barnabas Smith. However, Barnabas didn't want Isaac in the household, so the boy was sent to live with his grandparents. This was deeply painful for him. Being separated from his mother left a mark, and he became even more reserved, often keeping to himself. Unlike most children, Isaac didn't enjoy playing games. He preferred building small mechanical objects and experimenting with things he found around him. His curiosity and imagination were already shining through. He began attending the local village school, where he showed a mild interest in learning. Then, at the age of 12, he was sent to the King's School in Grantham, a nearby town. Since the school was far from home, he stayed with a local family. At first, he wasn't a standout student. His performance was average, and he didn't take school too seriously. But one day, a classmate picked a fight with him, and Isaac was determined to prove he wasn't just physically strong, but also intellectually superior. From that moment, he dedicated himself to his studies and quickly became one of the top students. He loved books, especially those about science, mathematics, and astronomy. He often watched the world around him closely, observing light, water, and nature's patterns. These simple observations would eventually fuel his groundbreaking scientific work. At 14, another big change occurred. His stepfather died, and his mother brought him back home, hoping he'd follow in his father's footsteps and become a farmer. But Isaac had no interest in farming. He preferred reading, thinking, and building small inventions. Luckily, his uncle William Asko recognized his talent and convinced his mother to let Isaac return to school. Isaac worked hard, and his teachers were impressed by his progress. By the time he was 18, he was ready for university and earned a place at Trinity College, part of the University of Cambridge. This marked the beginning of his path to greatness. Cambridge at the time focused on religion, philosophy, and early science. But the world was entering a new era, the scientific revolution, and Newton would become one of its most brilliant stars. To afford his education, Isaac worked as a servant for wealthier students. He did chores like cleaning and serving food, but he never lost focus. He spent nearly all his free time studying his favorite topics, mathematics, physics, and astronomy. He read the works of famous scientists like René Descartes and Galileo Galilei, but he didn't just accept their ideas. He questioned them and tried to form his own understanding of how the universe worked. He was especially fascinated by the stars and would often gaze at the night sky, wondering why the planets moved the way they did or why things fell to the ground. Then, in 1665, when he was 23, a deadly disease known as the Great Plague swept through England. Cambridge had to shut down for safety, and Isaac returned to Woolsthorpe to stay safe with his family. But what seemed like a setback became a turning point. He later referred to this period as his Year of Wonders. While at home, Isaac carried out many experiments. One day, he saw an apple fall from a tree. Most people wouldn't think twice about it, but Isaac began to wonder why the apple always fell straight down. Why not sideways or up? This question led to a groundbreaking idea. Perhaps the same force that pulls the apple down also governs how the moon orbits the Earth. This force, he concluded, was universal, and he called it gravity. This single observation would grow into one of the most important scientific theories ever developed. the law of universal gravitation. During this time, Isaac also began developing other ideas and conducting more experiments, setting the stage for his revolutionary contributions to science. Calculus is a branch of advanced mathematics that helps us make sense of things like motion, change, and speed. Isaac Newton's contributions to this field would later become some of his most influential work. Just imagine a young man sitting quietly in the countryside, inventing a whole new area of mathematics. It's truly astonishing to think about how his mind operated. When the plague finally ended in 1667, Newton went back to Cambridge University. There, he was made a fellow at Trinity College, a recognition of his remarkable intellect. Only 2 years later, in 1669, he was appointed as the Lucasian Professor of Mathematics, a highly respected position at the university. In this role, Newton continued developing his theories, building instruments, running experiments, and documenting his findings. Teaching large groups wasn't something he enjoyed, so he focused primarily on research. Around this time, Newton became deeply interested in light and how it behaves. Using just a simple glass prism, he made a groundbreaking discovery. White light is a single color. It's made of many. When light passes through a prism, it separates into a spectrum of colors: red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet. This completely changed how people understood light and color. He also invented the first reflecting telescope, which used mirrors instead of traditional lenses. This made it smaller yet more powerful than the existing telescopes. The invention gained Newton significant respect among the scientific community. By his early 30s, Newton was no longer a curious student. He was becoming one of the leading scientific thinkers of his time. His breakthroughs in light, gravity, and mathematics were game-changing. People began recognizing him as a true intellectual giant. Despite this fame, Newton remained a very private person. He was careful and methodical, rarely sharing his work until he was absolutely sure of its accuracy. This need for perfection often made things difficult, but it also ensured that his work was nearly flawless. He preferred working alone, away from attention. This quiet life was interrupted when another scientist, Robert Hooke, made claims about planetary motion. Hooke believed that a force similar to gravity might influence how planets orbit the sun. However, his ideas lacked the mathematical support needed. When Newton heard about this, he was intrigued. Years earlier, he had already done some thinking on gravity, but had never published it. Now, he felt it was time to present his findings. Newton threw himself into his work, refining his earlier calculations and proving that gravity wasn't just an earthly force, it was universal. He calculated how gravity affected the moon, the earth, and the planets, offering strong evidence that gravity governed the entire universe. In 1687, when he was 45, Newton published his most significant work, Philosophiae Naturalis Principia Mathematica, commonly called the Principia. This book transformed science. It introduced his 3 laws of motion and explained the universal law of gravitation. Here are his 3 famous laws. An object remains at rest or moves in a straight line unless acted upon by a force. The acceleration of an object depends on the force applied to it. For every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. These principles help scientists understand everything from falling objects to planetary movement. The Principia wasn't just a book. It was a turning point in science and earned Newton admiration from across Europe, even from royalty. Though widely celebrated, Newton himself didn't change. He stayed the same, quiet, intense, and deeply focused. He was known for working on a single problem for days at a time without rest. While his perfectionism brought him success, it also created friction with other scientists. He didn't take criticism well, and often got into heated disputes over his ideas. In 1696, Newton took on an unexpected role as warden of the Royal Mint, the institution in charge producing England's coins. At the time, counterfeit money was hurting the economy. Newton used his brilliant mind to tackle this issue, applying his attention to detail and investigative skills to catch counterfeiters and reform the system. Under his leadership, the Royal Mint became far more effective, and the problem of fake coins was greatly reduced. Then, in 1703, Newton was chosen as president of the Royal Society, the most esteemed scientific organization in the country. This marked yet another chapter in the life of a man whose ideas changed the world. In 1704, Isaac Newton released a groundbreaking book titled Optics, where he detailed his research on light and color. He explored the nature of the universe in the same work, proving his endless curiosity and imagination. Just a year later, in 1705, Queen knighted him, and he became Sir Isaac Newton, an honor rarely given, showing the immense value placed on his work not only by scientists but also by society at large. His intelligence, discipline, and tireless effort helped shape him into a legend. As the years passed and Newton aged, his life began to change. By the early 1700s, he had long passed his youthful days of quiet, relentless experimentation. Now in his 60s, he was recognized as one of the greatest minds in the world. However, with fame came difficulties. While many respected him deeply, others were envious and critical. Newton often found himself in disputes with fellow scientists, particularly regarding the credit for certain discoveries. One of the most well-known rivalries was with the German mathematician Gottfried Wilhelm Leibniz. Both had developed calculus independently, but accusations flew when Leibniz published his work. Supporters of Newton claimed he had stolen Newton's ideas, leading to a long-standing and bitter conflict between the two men. Newton's perfectionist nature and strong will only made such disagreements worse. He couldn't easily accept criticism and often spent years defending his findings. These battles affected his mental and emotional well-being, but also highlighted his deep desire to protect his legacy. Despite the challenges, he continued to influence the scientific world. In his later years, he became a mentor to younger scholars, offering guidance and sharing his knowledge freely. Newton held others to the same high standards he demanded of himself. He believed success came from dedication, discipline, and constant curiosity. He once said, "If I have seen further, it is by standing on the shoulders of giants." With this, Newton acknowledged the thinkers who came before him and understood that scientific progress is a shared effort. Even though he often worked in solitude, Newton spent his final years in London. He was financially comfortable and highly respected, yet he never married or had children. He spent much of his time studying religious texts, reflecting on his past, and continuing his intellectual pursuits. His mind remained sharp, and he enjoyed telling visitors the stories behind his discoveries. He hoped to inspire younger generations to embrace curiosity and persistence. On March 20th, 1727, Newton passed away at the age of 84. His death marked the close of an extraordinary life, but his impact was far from over. His work changed the way humanity understands the universe. His laws of motion and gravity became the cornerstone of physics and are still taught to students today. Calculus, once a new and abstract idea, became a fundamental tool in science, engineering, and economics. His insights into light and vision redefined optics. Newton's influence reached far beyond the realm of science. He encouraged people to think deeply, question boldly, and never stop exploring. His story is proof that determination, curiosity, and resilience can change the world. There are powerful lessons we can learn from how Newton lived. First, always ask questions. His biggest discoveries came from wondering about simple things, like why an apple falls. Second, effort matters more than natural talent. Newton wasn't born a genius. He worked hard, studied endlessly, and refused to give up. Third, failure is part of the process. He experienced setbacks and criticism, but used them to fuel his progress. Fourth, true strength lies in humility. Even with all his accomplishments, Newton never forgot to give credit to those who came before him. More than 300 years after his death, Newton's work continues to influence our lives. Every satellite launch, every technological advancement, every exploration of the cosmos builds upon the principles he uncovered. His life proves that a single determined person can leave a mark that lasts through the ages. Newton's story isn't just about science. It's about the human spirit. Greatness is not something people are born with. It is something they build. Newton was a boy from a small village who dared to dream. Through relentless effort, he became one of the greatest minds in history. Now think about your own journey. Maybe you want to learn something new, achieve success in your career, or make a difference in the world. Remember, every great journey begins with one small step. You don't have to be perfect. You just need to begin. Work hard, stay curious, and believe in yourself. If Newton could rise from humble beginnings and overcome countless challenges, so can you. The world needs your ideas, your passion, and your courage. Don't stop because you're afraid. Don't quit because it's difficult. Keep going, and one day, your story might inspire others too. If this story moved you or sparked a fire inside you, share it with someone who needs a push. And if you want to continue learning and growing, stay connected. Your greatness is already within you. Now it's time to take that first step. Your future is waiting.